What's up, everybody? Yeah, Monday, about to kick it off. Hope you guys are having a great day. It is Monday morning, the 19th of October. Can you believe it's already the 19th of October? We are rolling through the month of October. The market's not really doing all that much through the month of October, as it's kind of stalled out a little bit on us, but we are going to continue to do what we do each and every day, identifying both breakouts and reversal trades from an educational perspective. If you guys obviously have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, chuck.fulkerson@tradersarmy.com. Want to make sure we can help you as best we can. We are up this morning about 20-some points in the S&P, about 100 and something points in the NASDAQ. So we're already off to a fairly bullish start this morning, although coming up against some of the supply that we looked at last night in our live trade room, and a little bit of resistance inside that area. So if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, click the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get the alerts, the updates, all those fun things. And then if you would, just hit that thumbs up icon and leave a comment down below. Love it when you leave comments. That really helps the algorithms know that people are watching. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So let me shrink this down. Okay, so looking here at the S&P this morning, we are sitting right on the level that we talked about last night as a potential reversal trade. We'd hit that 15-minute zone, which was the origin of this strong move from Friday, and have begun a little bit of a move away. Now, by the way, depending on your sleep schedule, you may or may not have gotten into that trade, as price came into it with a pretty nice movement. And then came right to the opposing level for a little trade away. Those my friends of you that are in the UK probably made this one pretty good, or my friends in Dubai, where you're awake and ready to see the markets. It was a good setup. The other setup that was pretty good for a day trader was the little breakout that we got through here. The little breakout above there was also a pretty good little run. So now that we've hit there and moved away, without getting, a tremendous drop off of that level, what I would do is I would say, looking forward, what does that look like on a potential breakout? Now, that's an interesting breakout opportunity because of the whole round number. Because of that 3,500 whole round number, it becomes that much more interesting. Remember that we look for whole round numbers, and whole round numbers definitely matter. Now, I also want to go this to the 1 hour time period. And when I go to the 1 hour time period, the reason I'm coming back to here is because we do see that around 3,500, we've had a couple of pivots in the past. So, this is the area that we would need to see price be able to get through. On a 4 hour time chart, we had talked about the fact on Friday that we were allowed to be bearish because we were putting in some lower swing lows and lower swing highs. We're really just kind of in a meh position at this point, right? We've rallied up in the overnights. We have to continue to rally. I mean, that would be a heck of a bullish day to get up above here and have price to run much higher. Certainly, the market has it in there. And so what I'm looking for today, the best entries are going to be pullbacks to quality areas of demand with an opportunity to get long. The problem is that, when I look at these quality demand areas, type it in the chat window. What quality demand areas do you see on a 15 or a 60-minute chart? Now, can I go down to a 5-minute chart and really look for demand? Sure, I could, but I also don't go below 15. And the reason I don't go below 15 is because I see that most traders that do go below 15-minute charts wind up actually hurting themselves more than helping themselves, because the 15-minute chart is the smallest time frame that I want to trade on. So let me know if you guys see anything. I'd love to hear it, but I don't. Right? In looking below current price, because remember, when we identify demand, we start at the current price and we look down and to the left. And as I look down and to the left, I see this little area here, nothing overly strong, right? That area is okay. This area here is pretty good, but we've already touched it once and we're coming in around it again. Yeah, so exactly, Kowal. I've really got to go down to the gap at 3460 before you find anything worth taking, 3465, before you find anything really worth taking from a demand area. And so then when I go to the 60-minute chart, I've got to get, frankly, even a bit lower before we find any quality areas of demand that are going to make any sense on here, right? And you're looking down in this range, and that's really where the breakout trade sets up. So I'm going to hold off on most of my level additions until I find a reason to put a level. See, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is that the market's got to force me to put a level. It's got to tell me, hey, here's where you should be looking to be a buyer. And until I get that, I'm not interested. Next, the NASDAQ. So in our NASDAQ level, we are getting the move off of our 15-minute zone. I know that, like, once again, I know a lot of you are trading outside of the U.S., and if you are, then you're able to catch this. I said last night that I would not do a set it and forget it on this trade, which that is, I do not do set it and forget it styles for the most part, and I'm okay with that. But for those of you that were awake and able to catch that, I'm glad you're able to get that move. What's up, Gino? Good to have you. If I look at this little wick over wick area here, we've got 11,990 by 11,999. Right there at the 12,000. That's a really clean wick over wick on a 15-minute chart. So I'm going to make this a purple line. So that's a super nice level, very clean, well structured, below a pivot, right there at that tweezer top where I would expect to see a little reversal. Picture here is very much the same as the S&P. Not a lot of great demand here for me to lean on. Now, I will say this. If we get something more like this, let's say we get this kind of in the next few minutes, we get this kind of price action, right? We get this kind of price action in the next few minutes. Then all of a sudden, I'm going to have this as a supply area, right? Either this, or if we get a little wick over wick, maybe something right about here, right? Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that that's going to happen, but I have to always keep that in mind, is that if price does begin a bigger move, now it's going to reset some levels. So while I'm looking at that this morning, and there's not a whole lot to look at the moment, it doesn't mean that something won't be created and formed. Okay. The Russell, looking at the rut. The rut, very similar picture. We've got us above 1650 for a potential breakout trade, and I think that stays as our cream of the crop area. On a pullback to areas of demand, our closest and best one is this down here, 1620 on the 15-minute chart. Although once again, the gap fill area does exist. I have not been really trading a lot of gap fills. Right? I've not really been trading a lot of gap fills on the equity markets because I've seen a lot of them equity market gaps have been getting traded right through. And when those gaps get traded right through, they make it difficult to trade that gap. So that's my issue on trading those gap fills. I've just seen them get violated a lot recently, much to my proverbial chagrin. And then the Dow Jones also hit our supply level from last night, giving us a little move away. I'm going to remove this area here. By the way, if you are short from that supply area, look to about 28,523 as your target. Don't try to ride it all the way back down to the gap fill, but look to about 28,523 as your potential target. All right. On a 15. This one actually is the closest one to setting up for a potential little supply here. If you wanted to be a bit more aggressive this morning, this is the more aggressive short entry on here. It's 28,602 by 28,618 is the more aggressive supply entry. All right, let me share this grid real quick. Then we'll move over to our commodity markets. All right. Any other questions on the equities before we move over and talk about commodities for the day? And I know, by the way, I know that I go fairly fast on these daily market commentaries. I want to get them done by 30 minutes. My goal every day is, frankly, I'd like to get them done by 20 minutes. But it's definitely to be done by 30 minutes because I really want to make sure everybody can get off and start trading and get onto their day without having to think about too much. All right, crude oil. So in our crude oil trade, obviously we are on the December contract here, by the way. So looking at that December contract, we've came up to our potential breakout area. This is obviously not a breakout. We got absolutely no basing, so don't think of this as a false breakout. Think of this as another opportunity to get in to this breakout, because above that breakout line is where we have an opportunity for price to run. I think there's actually a chance if we get above here that we could see price make it up to 42.20 as a decent target, and then eventually to the origin of this move down up here at 42.89. So look for that as a potential. If I go back to the hourly levels, there's a couple of wicky areas down here, nothing that's clean for reversals. 15-minute, we had this zone right there, this little drop base rally, which we came super close to and didn't get filled, thus converting to a confirmation long. That's really all I want to look at for today. I don't really see a bunch of other reversal levels in between. Technically, if we get below this area, you're going to have some zones down here to look at. But those zones that are down here, I think, are a little bit less probable. And the reason that those zones down here are a little bit less probable is because my trend will have begun a much more move down, right? Good question, Liz. So with that little wick up here poking up, what's our high on that wick? 4109 is the high on that wick. Right here. Oh, this one over here. I'm sorry. You talking about this one way over here, Liz? Over to the left? Yeah, the high on this. Why is this telling me? Oh, no, 4144. That's right, 4144. I was looking at the one to the next. So my high on there is 4144. Yeah, you could use your stop above that 4144 if you wanted to. I'm not going to get that specific about it, Liz. I'm okay just somewhere above 4140. If I get basing, right? Now, what is basing? How do we define basing? Basing needs to occur in about this region, right? I need some narrow range candles in here to give me the basing. And if I don't get the narrow range candles to give me that possible basing, then what I can do is look for a retest of that area on a 15-minute chart. I will say that as we're coming up into here on the hourly chart, notice these are all green candles with high upper wicks. So green candles with high upper wicks tells me that I've got a really good chance of getting the basing I need, because those are what's happening is we're rallying up to here and then pulling back, and then rallying up to here and then pulling back, and then rallying up to here and then pulling back. This can hide basing. Upper wicks can hide basing. Upper wicks on green candles as price is going up can really start to hide basing. If we get too much of this, it might eat through enough of these orders up here and not get us the narrow range candles that I would want to see. But I'd still have a retest area and opportunity. All right. Next is gold. So last night we looked at our kind of gold setup as potential. And we talked yesterday about an iron condor in gold. So for those of you that were in class, we talked about the iron condor and pulling in a credit for that iron condor. Price actually popped to the upside in the overnight, which is actually pretty good for our iron condor because we were more towards the downside. But in that price popping to the upside, we had looked at a potential breakdown below 1901. Now I've got a reversal that set itself up after that with this wick over wick right here. Now, is it a great time of day? Heck to the no. It's not a great time of day, but it is a... Trent, what credit did you get for that, if you don't mind me asking? Because last night it was paying about $1.50 credit for a $5 spread. So this wick over wick here above a pivot could be a decent little reversal point if price comes back into there. And that would keep us in the range. Yeah, that's what we were getting last night too. Good. Next, Nat Gas. So Nat Gas we looked at last night. The only thing we saw was this little 15-minute area up above here for a potential reversal. Oh, you weren't getting filled last night? $1.50? It was trying to give you $1.40? I know it was jumping between $1.40 and $1.60, so. All right. So let's move over. Those are our commodity markets. We talked a little bit about soy and or soy and corn last night, but it's kind of in between my levels here, and corn's nowhere to be found there. Copper, just taking a look at copper real quick. We talked about here as potential breakout. We did not get the gap, or we did not get the basing for the breakout right here. As an example of not getting the proper basing. So I would need a retest. The retest can probably be found right here on the 15-minute chart. The one below is actually probably a bit of a better level. That's actually cleaner. It's not quite the retest, but that's a much cleaner zone. All right. Let me share this one. All right. And then last but certainly least, are the currency charts. As I'll take a look at these right quick. So looking here at the ZN 10-year note, we talked about last night the fact that we were continuing to come down. We put in another tweezer top right here. So anytime I see a tweezer top, I look at that and think that that has a potential to be a supply area. So look for a retest back to this tweezer top supply area here. It was very reminiscent of this one up here, so we may or may not come back into that level. In the Aussie position, 4-hour chart, prices are coming down. We are getting a slow roll back to the upside here, and if we do, the origin of that move down right here, 7133 by 7139, is a potential for a reversal. Looking at this area right here is actually a pretty clean long setup. Which is against our overall big picture trend direction, but it's formed at a pretty good time of day. And so for an intraday trade, if you want to try this on a long, I actually think that's a pretty good play. I don't think it's going to last for very long if you do take it, but it is a very, very small risk, little bit of a level, a very small area trade on there. John, let me go back to wheat after I get through these currency markets here real quick, and then we will talk about it. Now, the euro trade, this was fun. Not. This euro trade I looked at last night, I thought, you know what? This looks like a pretty good potential breakdown based upon the fact that we were chopping around here, 15-minute chart. I thought, okay, we got a pretty good little breakdown trade here. And then I got into the position, looked at it, said, okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to let that thing go. I'm going to place my stop right up here. I'm going to go to bed. And then I wake up this morning and want to punch myself in the throat because look at this. Boom, right at the London Open, the euro rallied straight up. This is just a good old-fashioned butt whooping. That's what that is, unfortunately. That happens. You're going to get those from time to time because all the setup was right. My 4-hour trend was down. My basing was present before the level, and we got our breakdown, and we started to get a little bit of a move away. Now, technically, had you been awake, if you were in front of the markets and you said, you know what, that's really not going anywhere after 6 candles, you might have gotten out of the trade, which I'd have been totally okay with. Because after 6 candles, it didn't really do a whole lot. But I will tell you, if you set it up and go to bed, you don't have that opportunity. Now, some sort of news, which frankly I haven't checked the news because I don't really watch the news or look at the news. My guess is it had something to do with Brexit. I've not looked at the Great British Pound yet, but that usually does when the euro does that. It's either that or a big stimulus was passed, or no, stimulus would take it the other way. So irregardless of what the news is, I need to look at the next opportunity. And so I normally would look for a wick over wick close to the pivot. In this case, I don't have a clean wick over wick close to the pivot. So I'm gonna wrap my lines around the origin of this big move. Now, this is what we would consider essentially a speed candle. All right, this is essentially a speed candle. And what do we know about speed candles? Speed candles tend to get retraced. And if it does get retraced, the hourly level down here is probably the best one. You do have some 15-minute areas of opportunity that are fairly clean, both this one and this one down below. Mm. In looking at this, I'm going to go with the slightly lower one rather than the higher one if you want to be more aggressive for a long day trade on a pullback. I want to pull a quick fib for this entire distance here. All right, so this lower line here is my 38.2 retracement. Wonder if the upper one's my 23.6 since I didn't add 23.6. And the upper one's my 23.6. So the fibs don't really help me much on this. I like the lower one. I think it's a little bit better of a pullback. 38.2 is usually a bit stronger. So if you wanted to take a long on here, I think that's probably not a bad way to go. If you're trading the actual currency pair, those of you that trade the actual currency pair in here, you would be right there. 1759 by 1754 on a 15-minute chart. I mean, what's nice is it's a very small level. Canadian dollar. So in our Canadian dollar, we did look last night at a pullback into this area here. We did get a touch back into this level, and then it didn't really go a whole lot of places before then rallying up. So nice little move away in that zone. If you moved your stop to break even, you frankly should still be riding it. And it's now coming up to our confirmation short. This confirmation short has basing fairly close to the level right in here. And so I don't think that it's going to be the best of ideas. If you wanted to still take it, you can, but I don't like it. We're pulling away from it now. I think we're going to cut through it. And when I look at a 15-minute chart, my eyes actually go to this little area right here, which we're coming close to in a few moments. So look for that as a short-term potential. If we get any basing at all between where we are now and the level, then that's going to cancel this trade. Great British Pound. So this is our Great British Pound level that we talked about. We looked at this one last night. Prices rallied up. If you got into this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5 candles into our 6-candle rule, and we've gone essentially nowhere, although technically not gotten our 6th candle yet, and price could still drop. If price does drop, it would be hip, hip, hooray. But I think you're better off looking at the demand area here. This level obviously is not going to be any of any use to us going any further. And my 4-hour is still meh, right? So I don't know that I would trade much along this Great British Pound. Japanese yen last night, we were sitting above above this level here, which was the potential on the breakdown. We kind of gave one quick poke below, but without really giving us any reason for the entry. This was during our class, and it just kind of still hammering around there. So I'd still need a few narrow range candles in here to make this make sense for a potential breakdown, with my target being right here at this 9472 area. This is the reversal trade down here, which I think is much better. On a 4-hour, this is doing what a lot of the currencies are, which is meh, and not a lot of pretty price action. Looking at this New Zealand dollar, which, Jose, I know that you're in, so we'll look at the New Zealand dollar. Taking a look here at our New Zealand dollar, we have rallied back up to our area of supply, and we're starting to get a little move away. If you took that, note this selling pressure we have on these wicks coming in first, which is a little bit like basing. A little bit of basing there before the level, maybe not pure basing, but I think your target is going to be right about 66.31. So look for your target somewhere down in here for your first target. You might want to go a little lower as well. All right, let me share this grid. right. Mexican peso, and then I'll take a look at wheat. Oops. All right. So our Mexican peso, which I haven't looked at in a while, so bear with me for a moment. All right, so my 4-hour trend is up, but boy, is it coming to some strong supply. Four-hour trend is definitely up, coming to some fairly strong supply, but we are basing a bit in front of that supply. So I think there's a chance that we'll come down from this area of supply, although the basing here scares me just a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised to see us come back down into this region here or even this one here as a potential target off of that 4-hour supply. I normally do the hourly, but on this case, I'm looking more at the 4-hour because there's really nothing there on the hourly. I'm not in love with it, though, because of this basing we're getting right here in front of the level. This, to me, is a bit of basing in front of the level, which is typically the kiss of death. All right, looking at wheat. So looking at wheat, we have on our 4-hour chart, ooh, wow, that's rallying hard, isn't it? So looking at this one, John, on a pullback, we have demand below us, but we gapped up and we've really gone nowhere after the gap, which is typically a gap and go scenario, right? There sometimes is a big pop that will happen out of these. So I'd be okay if you were long wheat with your stop kind of just below this area here, this 631 area, because that's usually gonna lead to a pretty big pop. When I go to the daily, heck, I got to go to a weekly. Ooh, I got to go further than that. I mean, I'm really going back in time here to find our next true supply area, and it takes me all the way over to say 650, 666 area. So I would continue to stay bullish. Obviously, your best opportunities are bullish on a pullback. I just don't know that you're going to get a super clean quality pullback worth taking. Remember, this market's going to close in a little bit before it's reset before the open. I'll put the gap fill on here for now is really the only area that I see. All right. 609 by 614 was yours, assuming trend doesn't change. Yes, I think that's actually really good. You're talking this area right in here. I think that's really strong. My only downside of that is that I just don't know that we're going to get there. Right? That won't change the trend because it was an old area here. I don't think it's going to quite change the trend. I just don't know that we're going to make it down there. Yeah, that pivot high to the left definitely matters, right? Price over here definitely has an impact on price moving over here. No question about that, John. All right. So those are my levels for today. If you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'm going to log this thing off for the day. I got it done in 29 minutes as my goal was to do so. So do me a favor. There's still 49 of you in the room. Click that little like button, that little thumbs up. It means a lot. Helps the computers know that, it's not just Russian spy bots that are watching my trading videos. Which, wouldn't it be funny if I get in trouble someday because Russian spy bots watch my trading videos, they make money, and then all of a sudden I feel like they say that I'm an economic terrorist. Terrible. All right, I'm just kidding. Obviously, I'm just joking. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central. See you then.